Hello there, Atheist Junior here, your friend and humble narrator. And today I have a very special guest on the show with me, Jackson Wheat. So, Jackson is a student at LSU, and he's currently getting a master's degree in organismal biology, as well as working as a teacher's assistant. So, he's also a YouTuber, and he makes educational videos about evolution, phylogeny, genetics, and taxonomy, as well as other topics. So, if you like this interview, be sure to check out his channel and subscribe. And also today, Nestlig is going to be joining us. So, Jackson, thank you so much for coming on. And how are you doing today?
Oh, pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm staying cool, I hope.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's Louisiana. It's 91 currently, so I'm inside.
Yeah. So you live in Louisiana. Did you have like a religious family growing up?
I mean, yeah, they are still religious. Not fundamentalist or anything,
Mm-hmm.
but yes, I was raised in Christianity.
Were they? Were you ever like creationists, or did you ever go to school and take like or have those type of classes? Like I think Erica did. She went to like a middle school where they had younger creationism in the curriculum. Did you ever have anything like that?
No, not as far as I'm aware. Uh, my schools. I mean, Louisiana, despite our checkered history of having lots of attempts by creationists and definitely not creationist intelligent design advocates pushing for textbooks and other sorts of things um, in the schools which promote creationism and intelligent design. I've never actually encountered it in the school system at any point in middle school. I don't believe. Well, I think we were like introduced to the concept of like evolutionary biology in like life science in seventh grade, but very, very vaguely. And then when I was in high school, when I took biology in 10th grade, we definitely talked about evolutionary biology. And so I never,
Did,
I was
did you knew
never,
about evolution before you learned it in school?
yeah, I sort of came across it around sometime between like fifth and sixth grade. Um, was when I first kind of came across the idea, and and I had this sort of basic grasp of it, and then once I got into high school, I really started getting into more of it and becoming kind of a. It became my passion. I was gonna say became obsessed with it. It became my passion. So there you go. It's a better way of putting it.
That's okay to admit it. So you've been making some videos about the book The Ancestor's Tale, written by Richard Dawkins and Yan Wang. So I'm familiar with Dawkins, but who is Yan Wang? Because I hadn't heard that name before.
He's also an evolutionary biologist. In the first edition of The Ancestor's Tale, they worked together on a couple of chapters. That was in 2004 was when the first edition was published. And so over the next 10 years, Wang and Dawkins worked much more extensively on the book. Wang had more of an input in different areas. And so Dawkins was like, it'll be the two of us, Dawkins and Wang. And so in the second edition, they're both on the title. And so that's why I say by Dawkins and Wang.
Mm-hmm. So like each video that you've been coming out with is like based on a different chapter or a different section of the book?
Yeah, so the book is a backwards history of life. Normally, we're given the life started in a warm puddle or the deep abyss of the ocean by a hydrothermal vent. And then from there you had, the prokaryotes, and then you had eukaryotes later. And so you get the forward view. But this time, what was really cool about this is he's going off of the same sort of narrative as Canterbury Tales. So as they are going towards Canterbury, each of our pilgrims tells a tale. And so So yeah, he goes backwards. So like there are chapters where he discusses the set of organisms involved. Like there's a chapter for the ray-finned fish or for chimpanzees, and then there's a tale or a set of tales within the chapters, and we are doing discussions of the tales rather than the chapters themselves.
Right, because I think I remember in either the last video you made or the one before that, you said that like this video is based on like 2 pages from the book.
Yes, yeah, that was the Cro-Magnon's tale. He in the second edition, because I don't think it's in the first edition, but in the second edition they just kind of talk about how language and tool usage kind of underwent some changes around 50,000 years ago, and what impact did that have? Well, we don't really know what sort of impacts language had in evolutionary history, because language doesn't fossilize and culture fossilizes so little as it is. And so it is interesting to speculate about. But so what we did was we talked about tools from that time period and how there's a sort of seamless transition, because he calls it the Great Leap Forward. And actually, when we first started writing, I was under the impression that there was some sort of Great Leap Forward. But the more that I read, I don't know about Nestle, but the more that I read, I became convinced there was no Great Leap Forward. It's just a series of gradual transitions in culture. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this was my impression too. Like, coincidentally, I actually saw a video or a podcast made by Through Clades and Time. It's a very good podcast, and they also made a podcast about. They made earlier videos about human evolution, but before we made that video, they recently did specifically a video on the transition from agriculture. And they also noted that the transition likely happened across such a vast time span that the individual humans, each generation, wouldn't have noticed the transition by themselves. So yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you know how many videos you plan to make in this series, or are you just kind of doing it as you go along?
I think there are 59 tales. I think it's 59 tales.
Probably finished by 2030.
Well, I hope not, because I have other plans for other series that we're going to do, which will be very interesting. But we'll see how that meshes with our school schedules and work schedules and that sort of thing. So I hope not to be done by 2030, but that's entirely a possibility. But there's like 59 of them.
You'll be done by the next Olympics, probably. Hopefully.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, we're getting these out relatively rapidly. I've kind of set aside the other, because we have like a list of videos, and then I kind of got the bee in my bonnet that I was like, we're just going to go and do the Ancestors Tale series, because I wanted to do that for a long time, and so this was finally like, okay, we're just going to do it. And so here we are, going through it. And we're doing other videos from time to time. Like, we're still doing the genetic series, and actually the next video, which we're going to put out, is not in the Ancestors Tale. And then I have another one which we will maybe have a guest star in. And so, yeah.
So who do you collab with to write your videos? I know you said that it's like 3 or 4 other people.
Yeah. So Neslig, RJ Downard, and
of course,
Rational Mind. They are the core group who go over my scripts. Because we've been doing a lot of primate stuff recently, I've also been having Erica
of course
proof my scripts. But yeah, Neslig, Ration, and RJ are the core group who do that.
So I was watching your new video. I think it's the newest one about mitochondrial Eve.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, like, I wonder how much misunderstanding by creationists has been caused just by the fact that they had to name it Eve, like.
Yeah.
Right. Should have been Tarzan and Jane, or something like that. Because and it's really funny because the researchers didn't name it that. They wrote it was Canadol 1987, which essentially put a date on the most recent mitochondrial ancestor, at about 200,000 years. And then the scientific press sort of ran with that, and they were like, well, call it Eve, even though she was not the most recent female common ancestor of all humans. That person lived way after Eve lived, because we've already met both the most recent common ancestor of all humans and the identical ancestors point. That was in the first video. We're substantially beyond that point now.
Yeah, because you made a
I
good.
would have preferred the like Y chromosome Merca and the mitochondrial Merca. Although if we call it Merca, then some people probably think that they lived in America for some reason.
Yeah.
Well, you made a good point in that video that they were not the very first living people, like, nor did they live 6,000 years ago. They likely lived many years apart, you know?
Yeah.
So, like,
and
what was it, like
there's
50,000
probably a few
years?
reasons for that too, yeah. Like, the mitochondrial Eve probably lived way before Y chromosome M, because two reasons. One, there are more individuals who carry a mitochondrial DNA than there are people who carry a Y chromosome, and that makes the effective population of the Y chromosome half of the ones for the mitochondrial DNA, and therefore it's just by sheer chance the Y chromosome coalesces more recently than the mitochondrial DNA, and also males tend to have a lot higher potential for having more offspring than females. So that's why it's the Y chromosome, Adam, quote unquote, lived more recently than the mitochondrial Eve. But yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to ask you a kind of general question, but like, what do you think is the best evidence or a really good line of evidence for evolution? Like, if somebody pressed you on it.
Well, I would say the fact that there are genetic homologies between so what I like about this series is we started off with like genealogy trees, and then we were like, okay, so we all understand genealogy trees. Now let's understand gene trees. How are these different? But the fact that we can do that we can compare genes not just among individuals within a population, but individuals within a species and then between species, that is, I think, the most powerful evidence of evolution. And I've actually been reading a book for an upcoming video where they talk about basically right after like a decade or so after the neo-Darwinian synthesis was sort of formalized, they talk about how do we identify genetic homologies. So this is in a time when like they're still trying to figure out what the structure of DNA is, but they have linkage maps, right? So we know where sort of traits are in relation to each other, but not like what the actual structure of the DNA is. But if you mutate these areas, which we can correspond between different species, you get the same sorts of traits, right? The same sort of messed up traits. Like if you mutate this region in Drosophila melanogaster, and you also do it in Drosophila pseudoobscura, well, they both develop the same suite of like damaged traits, right? That'll be short wings and colorless eyes, things like that.
And I think also one of the more dramatic examples would be the PAX6 gene. Which is, when you mute it in the eye in flies, they will they develop the eyes, or they won't develop eyes, and the same thing or similar thing happens in mice.
Right.
So the PAX6 gene is involved in the development of eyes in both species. Like it's really called a deep homology that is shared between insects and vertebrates, and also all various other animals. My favorite. I have two favorite examples. Like one is the more or less taxonomy, which is basically of a phylogenetic tree, the nested hierarchical relationship between the traits that life exhibits between each other. For example, like it was actually Linnaeus who first observed this nested hierarchical pattern between different organisms. And he basically he basically constructed a phylogenetic tree without even knowing it was a phylogenetic tree. So that would be for a good example for common ancestry. Like he saw the sign or the phylogenetic signal of common ancestry without even being aware of it. For a specific example between humans and chimpanzee common ancestry would be the unique insertion mutations, for example, ERVs or the NANOG processed pseudogene family that we share between us, because that unique insertion events that could only have happened in a common ancestry. Like if somehow we gained the ERVs and the pseudogenes independently of each other, would be an astronomical coincidence.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's my favorite example of evidence.
Yeah, those are definitely great examples. I think for mine, I would just go with a more simple one, which is I think homologous structures. Like if you look at Tiktaalik, it has the same pattern of one bone, two bone, lots of bones in going down from the arm to the fingers.
You've been reading Neil Shubin?
I've watched some videos of his, but you also have that in humans, and then the thing that kind of blows my mind is you also have it in whales. Like whales have no reason. I think I mentioned this the last time me and Jackson talked. Like there's no reason for whales to have like individual finger bones. Like they have one giant flipper. So to me, that just I don't see an explanation for that other than evolution. Also, if you look at, I think manatees, they have what I think are vestigial like fingernails, which are totally useless.
They have actually hooves because they belong to a clade shared with elephants, and also I think also aardvarks and hyraxes, and they have little hooves, all of them. Of course, elephants have a lot bigger hooves because they are just, of course, bigger overall. But yeah.
Okay, so I'll pose another question to you guys. What is a creationist argument that you're tired of hearing or tired of seeing come up?
Oh God,
all of them.
All of them, yes. I mean, it depends.
The name one.
Because like there are lots of different ways I could answer that. I mean, if you say like, what's a genetic argument, what's a paleontological argument, I would answer different arguments. I think just off the top of my head, the idea that no one's ever seen a dog give birth to a non-dog.
That's a good one. Yeah,
that one's one of the. I saw Wheat interact with Nephilim Free one time. Did he ever debate him? It depends on what you mean by debate, because I. Never mind. I'm not going to talk about it. You can find it. Yeah. So has a dog ever given birth to a non-dog? Has a monkey ever given birth to a human? That kind of stuff. So.
Like the one that immediately comes to mind is the why are there still monkeys argument. Like that's the big one to me. It's like I think the most argument, the ones that really grind my gears the most are the ones that basically has evolution completely backwards. So if they ask, for example, for sorry, it's getting late for me, so I'm a bit.
Well, I think I know what you're saying. Yeah, they asked for an example to prove evolution, but if you provided that example, it would disprove evolution.
Exactly. Right. That's what I'm trying to say. They are asking for. They make a challenge, but if the challenge is actually met, it would disprove evolution, so they have it completely backwards.
Yeah. I think my favorite response to the if we came from monkeys, why are there still monkeys? Is say if I have a loaf of bread and I take some of it and I make toast, why do I still have bread left?
If cheese comes from milk, why is there still milk?
If Americans came from Europeans, why are there still Europeans?
Yeah, and what Jackson was saying about like we've never seen a dog give birth to a non-dog with Kent Hovind, he is tricky enough to where he doesn't say give birth. He just says produce, and that's him obfuscating what he's actually saying, because if you try to call him out, he'll say, "Oh, I never said that like a banana or like a dog gives birth to a cat." But I've tried to ask him this before, like, what do you mean by produce? Because he'll always say, like, dogs produce dogs, but you think a dog and like a reptile have a common ancestor. And I'm thinking, like, you're comparing two totally different things. Because on the one hand, if by produce you mean give birth, then you're saying we've never seen a dog give birth to like a totally different species, which is like obviously. But we've also, but also common ancestry isn't true. It's like those things are not, one doesn't like relate to the other,
Right. You believe you're related to a mosquito. Well, why don't you try giving an organism which is much more closely related to humans, and then we'll talk about that.
Yeah,
are you related to Homo erectus?
That's also the thing that also grinds me up. Like it's like when you ask them about kind, like, oh, how do you define kind? Let's see, like, are these related to these? And then they will immediately go all the way to the bottom of the tree of life. Like, oh, are elephants related to pine trees? Like,
right?
Can we begin with the tiny branches, and then we go continuously downwards, and then we see when does it stop? Like, when exactly does this relationship stop?
No, because then you'll confuse them, Nestle. Why? You can't confuse them.
Yeah. This is something that I asked Kent when I debated him, because in my opening, I said that Kent intentionally compares two organisms that are extremely different, but he won't ask, are gerbils and hamsters the same kind?
Right.
I would have liked to ask them about plants, because they never talk about plants. And like,
oh no,
would they accept that grasses are related to like sunflowers or something, like dicots and monocots? Like, would they accept that? Like some of them say that all bacteria are still a kind, so I wouldn't be surprised that they are so ignorant about plant diversity that they will say, yeah, all plants are one kind. Like,
yeah, that's where Kent Hovind's argument breaks down, because he says like, oh, a kind just means they can bring forth, okay? But it's like, well, you're only describing animals that can reproduce, but there are tons of organisms that don't reproduce sexually. So, what about those? Like, or what about animals that reproduce by budding or by splitting it, dividing? But that's not like bringing forth.
I imagine if somebody does a debate about like evidence for evolution, and the proponent for evolution only talks about plants and never mentions animals, the creationists will just be furious, because they have no idea what to talk about.
No, yeah, they have zero understanding of plants whatsoever. I don't think any of them are trained in botany, and furthermore,
except for maybe Sanford, but although he invented the gene which is applied into plant biology. I don't know if he's also a plant biologist himself. I think yes, or maybe he is, right?
Yeah, it was corn, wasn't it?
Yeah,
he did like corn research. I don't know if he's a general plant biology or just like genetics, but did research on or did experiments on corn. I'm not entirely sure about that, but yeah, I mean, plus like, I don't think I've ever seen him do a debate, but yeah, if you try, which would be very fun. I think that'd be fun to have a debate with creationists on plant baraminology. That'd be great.
Is Pigliucci a botanist? Do you know, Massimo?
That's a good question. I just am like aware of him as an evolutionary biologist, and I know he has like a penchant for philosophy, but I don't know. I've never read anything of his. I don't think.
Because I had heard that, but I think Kent said that, so I don't know if that's true. But I saw during his debate, it was a radio debate he did with Kent, where
Yes.
he corrected Kent
Yes.
on saying that bananas were related to something else, and he said it wouldn't be a banana; it would be a banana tree.
Right.
Yeah.
Which
Oh,
is a bit,
it's
dishonest.
funny. It's funny you mentioned that one actually, because during R and Raw's back and forth with Kent Hovind, Hovind specifically said, "I don't call myself doctor. The dude who does my stuff, my editing stuff, whatever, puts a Dr. Hovind." In that debate, Hovind says to the moderator, "If you're gonna call him Dr. Pigliucci, call me Dr. Hovind."
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Oh my god.
lie, big lie, and I remember that, and I think about that every time.
Oh yeah, that's a
It-
great.
I think it's a very narcissistic sign, like to brag about you. Oh, I'm just an ordinary guy. I never call me doctor. And then when he debates somebody who is a doctor, then he needs to elevate himself to the same standard. Apparently, yeah. It's
Yeah, or he
Oh, no.
he highlighted the fact that you're calling me Mister, like he drew attention to that.
Kent Hovind is a lying narcissist. Oh gosh, wow! Stop the presses. Film at 11.
Jackson, can you read this comment out loud? Because I my screen has gone a little bit pixely. Can you read that the one I put on the screen?
Mine has also gone pixely,
yeah.
but
SFT tries using. Oh, it's now
there
clearing
goes.
for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
On
Okay.
if species rate of extinction or anything. Okay.
Oh,
mean,
no,
SF
it's the argument that if evolution is true, we should expect more species, because if the average speciation rate is X, then extrapolating from it, of course, as if extinction doesn't happen.
Yeah, okay. That's just I would say that's just like baseline stupid, but then it's standing. So, anyway.
Yeah, SFT says a lot of things.
yes, he does. At any rate.
So this is a question that I asked Erica when I talked to her, but how, like, even if it's a small way, how would you like to see some of like the younger creationists, like in our YouTube community, maybe improve, like in maybe like their source methods or just their behavior or just the content they make, even if it's just a small improvement?
If they could not be as just straight up antagonistic as they are, that would be great. Like it's one thing to be wrong and you're arrogantly wrong. That's another thing, but they're like antagonistic.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't argue with them, as Nestleg knows. The only video on the channel which is dedicated to the Brain Trust was actually made by Ration. I had no input in it whatsoever. I didn't do anything. He was just like, "Hey, I want to make a video. Can we post?" And he said, "Can I post on it?" And I was like, "Fine, okay, whatever, sure." And that's the only one that we have which is about them. Other than the time that Standing came on. Other than that,
and the only response, like the first response was like doing the ad hominem, like, "Oh, Jackson couldn't respond
that's right.
to us, so he hired Ration to respond for him." Like, no.
It's like I have never. I don't think I've ever watched a video on their channel. I don't think I have, because why? Why would I waste my time on their
They're so long.
abject idiocy? Yeah.
Like, at first, like there was a time when I watched like each video that came up every day, almost every day, for some reason. Like they were really fast. Like, and I just made comments pointing out the most. Like I couldn't go over the entire video. I just picked a few points that were the most egregious ones. And there was one time when they deleted the video after I had corrected it, and I saved it, and there actually were more mistakes in that deleted video that I picked up on. Like there was one time Ron claimed that humans have only one inner ear bone.
Gravy.
Humans have three, and that's why we aren't related.
It's I remember Nestle posted a video where he looked at when they posted originally, and so what they would do is they would most of the time they wouldn't even delete the original copy. They would just like edit out the part that they got wrong but leave everything else up. And so it's like if we could just have like a little bit of honesty, just the slightest bit, and not be so antagonistic, that'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Also, this was also one time when Ralmet, like in the first version of the video, Ralmet was like, "Oh, who are the ancestors of cats? Ah, the Maiacids." But then the edited video was like, "Oh no, the only one we know is Proeleurus, and that's the only cat ancestor we know of." And then they're like, "Oh wait, 180. I wonder why."
Yeah, you know, they post these videos that have these bombastic titles, like they'll respond to one of Erica's videos and the title will be like, "Oh, Gutsick Gibbon is refuted, like she's been destroyed, she's homeless and living on the street and destitute." Like,
right. Look, you know what? We named our video.
Did they actually say that?
No, it's like
not that far, but
it's adjacent. It's pretty close. So we did a video where we absolutely dumped on genetic entropy. You know what we named the video? Genetic entropy.
Yeah. I helped. Yes.
It's like I mean, we dumped on it. You know, we've destroyed a bunch of creationist arguments in different videos where we'll just take the one argument and we'll just, you know, go through it piece by piece and shred it. But like, we just named the video what the argument is. So that way, when you look it up, you're like, oh, this is a video about that argument. So I'm going to watch that.
Because you can let the content speak for itself. Like, you don't have to like clickbait.
Exactly. Yeah. What a funny idea. Anyway.
So I have to say that, you know, Jackson, you helped me prepare for my debate with Kent Hovind. So thank you for that. Would you debate him again is my question.
I actually had to answer this a few months back, and under weird circumstances. So someone emailed me saying, "Hey, I'm gonna set up a debate channel, and will you come on and debate Kent Hovind?" And I was like, under almost no other circumstances would I debate Kent Hovind again, because why? And also I've done it twice. But I was like, look, I'll do it for a small channel if they need the views. You know, I was like, okay, I'll do it to help them get views. And then they just never messaged me. No, they did message me again. They said Kent Hovind didn't want to do it, but that Nephilim Free would be happy to do it. And I said, heck no. And then they never messaged me again.
WTF avoid.
Yeah, no, I've talked to Neff on several occasions, and I would rather just become an alcoholic.
Yeah, I would rather
because
drink
you
battery
lose
acid.
less brain cells that way.
You lose less brain cells.
Yeah. Well, if you do debate Kent Hovind again, hopefully he doesn't have a stroke in the middle of the debate like that one time that I showed you.
Nestle, have you seen that? It was, what did he say again? Say the thing again, please.
He said, I don't know how we got resulted to one brief stick Nelson handling the case.
Yes, because Nestle, that was during the
ARC debate.
Yes, the flood debate that we did, and he just says that during his rebuttal, and I guess I forgot.
What did he say?
It was just gibberish.
Say the sentence again.
Okay. He is talking about. He says, "I don't know. We've never seen nothing come from something, and we should stop all the fighting about this." And he's like, sort of like making sense. And then he says, "We've never been resulted from one brief stick Nelson handling the case." Like, and that's word for word what he said.
I don't know what to
Don't-
say.
don't
Like,
ask me.
No, I didn't remember that because he Atheist Junior mentioned it to me the last time I was on. And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then he sent me the link, and I rewatched it. And I was like, "Holy crap!" I guess I'd forgotten that.
Your brain blocked it out.
A little brain fart.
I could hear he had a stroke or something. I don't know, but yeah, it's like, what?
Brain overload, maybe.
Well, he did say during that debate, at the beginning of the debate, that he wasn't feeling good that day.
It's
Oh,
true.
Like
He
he had
did say
been
that.
sick.
Yeah.
But I can remember the last time that I was real sick and like, I didn't say anything like that.
Yeah, I don't ever think I just said like just utter gibberish. So
And I have to wonder if the word Nelson was a reference to Aaron Ra, because he always calls him
Aaron Nelson,
Mr.
yeah.
Nelson. Yeah.
Mhm. God, I don't know.
I'll send Nestle the link after this. Maybe we can watch it in the offline chat for a hoot.
It's just bonkers, absolute bonkers.
Yeah. So, if I can ask a more serious question, or I really liked your video that was called "The Farmer's Tale," and because I liked the story where you talked about the people who, I guess, like died defending the seed bank, or did some of them die?
A question for Nestlig, because he added that part. That's a
Yeah,
question for Nestlig.
I added that part. Sorry for breaking up the story about the actual transition to farming, but I just couldn't resist talking about that because it was really important. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that I had never heard that, and I found it to be a really interesting story because, I mean, those people seem pretty heroic in my opinion. Like they basically saved people's lives at the expense of their own. And I saw in Aaron Ra's, not his newest video, but the one before it, because he just uploaded a video today. He was talking about the communist government and Lysenkoism, and how one person's frankly idiotic decisions, his denial of Darwin's understanding of seed biology, really killed a whole lot of people.
Yeah, it's actually basically like what happened back then. It's actually like how when someone like Kent Hovind gains like a major political influence on and as a grip on science, like really, it's basically that.
Yeah,
it's
and promoting eating apricot seeds, like, let's put them in kids' school lunches and stuff.
Yeah.
Killing kids with cyanide poisoning, and aside from it's a really interesting story. Like it has many different cautionary tales. Like for example, don't limit science with politics, of course. And
I do have to say, no one should no one can tell Hovind about ginkgo seeds, because I don't think he's killed anyone with the apricot seeds yet. But if he finds out about ginkgo seeds, he will be killing people.
He did feed one to a chihuahua. I know that. Well,
chihuahuas are Satan spawn anyway, so
I've seen Kent Hovind eat these apricot seeds, and he says, "Oh, they don't taste very good." It's like, I wonder why.
Well, they want, so what the tree wants you to do is it wants something to see, hey, look, nice fleshy coating, but we don't want you to eat the seed. We specifically don't want you to eat the seed, which is why...
Or at the very least, not chew them, just...
We don't want you to chew, is a more accurate way to put that. Right. We don't want you to chew the seed, which is the same for ginkgos and avocados. It's like, yes, you can ingest the seed, but poop it out.
Yeah, right? We want you to go somewhere else and dispose of it.
Yeah,
to spread our seeds around.
Don't chew it up. And
make a nice little fertilizing poop mound over there.
That's true.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that an evolutionary mechanism? The fact that they develop cyanide Is that like a defense
Yes.
mechanism?
Yeah, many different groups. Like this is actually my thing because I'm more in the plant biology with my education, and there are a lot of different groups that have like evolved different noxious compounds. Like for example, like specifically in the rosette group, which include roses, apples, pears, and also peaches and such. Their seeds contain cyanide, or at least a compound that breaks down into cyanide when you ingest it. There are also other groups like, for example, your broccoli and Brussels sprouts. They contain, I forget the name, but they also contain a stuff that is actually very poisonous to insects. It's also poisonous to us, but of course, when we eat it in small amounts, it doesn't really do much with us. And there are also like nightshades. The nightshades have toxic alkaloids, but there are fruits like, for example, in peppers and chili peppers and tomatoes. The fruits don't contain these alkaloids, and that's why they are safe to eat. But when you eat the plants, you're actually eating nightshade, basically. So don't eat the green parts from those plants.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a very interesting way how plants have evolved to both protect themselves and also attract animals specifically to their fruits to be able to disperse their seeds.
So, Jackson, do you have any collabs coming up, or that you can spoil, or?
Oh no.
Okay.
Yes to collabs, no to spoil.
Okay. Well,
I think my most recent collab was with Prophet of Zod when I talked about frog sex. So yeah. Yeah, so if you guys haven't seen that, go check it out. Prophet of Zod. We talk about I talk about frog sex, and we have a couple of collabs in the works, allegedly. And so all of you will get to see that. We did a collab a couple months back with Genetically Modified Skeptic. We talked about where whales go when they die. So, yeah.
Oh, are you planning on going to Faithless Forum?
Is that this year?
I believe it's in November. I could be wrong.
I was unaware of I don't know. Because I not presently. I mean,
you're like I just found out about it right now.
I just found out about it right now. Yeah, so I guess I can look into it. I hadn't looked it up.
Well, it's going to be on a Saturday and I think it's like over the weekend.
Right. How would I? We'll talk about it afterwards.
Okay.
I'll look it up afterwards.
Yeah. So I know that the Ancestor's Tale is your favorite book by Dawkins and Wong. What's your favorite, or what are some of your favorite books written by Charles Darwin?
Well, I've only read 3 of his books in total. Origin of Species. Actually, I was just going over chapter 13 just yesterday because it's really good. Even though my favorite chapter is chapter 2. Chapter 2 of Origin of Species is one of my favorites because he talks about how the species concept is very nebulous. And so
the species anti-realist, the first one. Yay.
Darwin was the first species anti-realist, which it's a very good chapter. I've read Descent of Man, which is very good. His chapters because he sort of reprises his arguments for natural selection very briefly, and then he talks about how does this apply to humans, and then he goes through that. He gives these long descriptions of similarity of morphological and behavioral similarities that we have with chimps and old world monkeys and new world monkeys, and so it's really good. And also he talks about why race definitely isn't a thing, so that's also really good. He has this off quote and I can't remember it because it's a list, but he says like if you compare the greatest authorities, and he uses greatest as in like the most well-known authorities in the sense, like if you compare the greatest authorities on how many races,
the most capable judges, he said,
right,
yeah,
right, the most capable judges on how many races there are, he's like, this guy says 5, this guy says 12, 10, 15, 20, 30, and he just compares all of them. He's
60.
like, doesn't look like anybody has a metric. So
Yeah, it just keeps going up to
yeah.
till
Yeah.
till you get to
To be
like
fair,
60 different races.
Darwin did a bit going back and forth. Like one time he makes the argument in case for different races, and then he follows it up by arguments against it, and then for it, and then against it. It's like an internal debate that he has with this topic.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that's fair, but at the end of the day, he was also in a world of like polygenists, where people
Yeah.
were like, the races were created separately, and Darwin's like, nah, they all share a common ancestor.
Right.
Yeah,
It's actually
well,
it's exactly like he made it actually a specific prediction, like when evolution would be accepted, the debate between the polygenists and the monogenists would die in an unobservable death, and which is like, yeah, he was right. Like nobody noticed that this debate had ended. It's not only was no longer a question to be had anymore. Yeah,
Oh.
all humans are related.
And and the third one, to answer your or to answer your question, or to finish answering, I got sidetracked. The only other one I've read is Darwin's Voyages of the Beagle, so his journal that he took with him as he traveled the world, which also very good, highly recommend.
Yeah, there's also interesting notice too about his view on different races. Like when you look at his opinion on like the native tribes, like he often praised them for their cognitive abilities. Like at one time, he compared the ability of the natives to mimic English, and contrasted with the ability of the British colonizers to mimic their own language. And of course,
Right.
they were very bad at mimicking their language, but they were very good at mimicking the English language. So yeah, it's interesting how we picked up on how impressive they were. Like of course, most would say like, they are just primitive people, right? But he picked up on the how smart they were.
Yeah. I will say real quick, Jackson, I may buy you the Darwin's books on barnacles and send them to you, and force you to read them.
I can't make any promises in that regard.
Make a video on barnacle sex, like you already did one on whale sex.
Well,
so
we do have the barnacle's tale that is in the Ancestor's Tale. Although the barnacle's tale is about brief spoiler, but it's a free book, or I mean, it's a book out there where anyone can buy. So the barnacle's tale is more about organisms that don't look like, they don't express their ancestry, because barnacles are arthropods, but there's a huge debate over what the heck are barnacles, because they're these weird guys who live in a shell, and like they're actually shrimp who stick their legs out. Or the same is true of like these Myrmecophilus flies who've lost their wings and don't look like flies. So
anyway. It's like barnacles are like the equivalent version of like tunicates, like invertebrates, or at least the chordates. You have like most of them are like the Amphioxus, and of course like they were swimming like fish mostly. But then the tunicates did a very weird thing. They just like attach themselves on the surface and just circulates water on the gills, and like all right, now they just stay put on one spot like that.
Yeah,
same with barnacles.
Yeah. Well, this we were saying a second ago how Darwin was quite progressive when it came to saying that humans were all of the same race, even though basically the normal scientific view at the time was that they were separate races or separate species.
Right, the polygenist view.
Yeah. And this is why I had to make a video correcting your nemesis, A Bit of Orange, because he made a whole video saying that Darwin was racist, and
well,
I had to respond.
In fairness, I mean, look, you can take the writings of literally anyone from like before before recent years and draw conclusions about whether or not they're racist. Okay, fine. By our standards, was Darwin racist? Sure. There are some
he had
sections you
prejudice,
can.
yeah.
He had prejudice
Totally, yeah.
both against other races and against females. He
Yeah.
talks about females being like intermediate in skull capacity between children's and adult males. Like, okay, look,
He was Victorian after all, yeah.
yes, exactly. And so it's by our standards, was he racist? Sure. Was he extremely progressive for his time? Also, yes. And so you have to
Yeah.
kind of look at both of these things. And
It's like saying like was Abraham Lincoln racist? Yeah, like if you pull up
Sure.
some of his quotes, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like,
it-
okay.
it was 1865. Like,
right. Yeah, exactly.
come on.
This idea that, you know, or it's also great when you pull receipts on the history of creationism. George
Mhm.
McCready Price, Henry Morris, these guys were racists.
Yeah,
They were
right.
also on the humans were created separately train, or different races were created separately, and that blacks were inferior to whites and this kind of stuff. This is in young Earth creationist history within the past 100 years, and the fact that none of them know it is a product of them of such a good like PR job that more recent creationists have done. They're like,
Mhm.
forget about Price, forget about Morris, forget all those guys. We're gonna skip them. We're only gonna talk about us and how good we are. And Darwin was a racist.
We are the true social justice warriors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is also real super weird.
Yeah,
backwards.
and evolution is somehow the basis for
Yeah.
communism, even
Yeah.
though Stalin burned
Yeah.
Darwin's books and
Also.
Lysenko hated Darwin's theories.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's also one thing, yeah.
yeah,
it's,
exactly.
And it's also like one interesting to note. It's one of the most influential person who like de-racialized anthropology was Franz Boas.
Mhm.
Like, and he credited Darwin for like taking like changing the whole at least marking the trend from being like very ethnocentric anthropology to like a more equal view of
Yeah.
even though Darwin probably had his prejudices, he still was credited for advancing the field, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a whole idea that like society progressed unilaterally, which we did talk about in The Farmer's Tale, and that view is obviously wrong. Not all societies have to progress from hunter-gatherer to nomadic pastoralist to
And it's
a
also-
sedentary society.
It's also progress is also a bit loaded because like it's arbitrary what you consider progress.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so we talked about that and how societies span the entire
Like the average day for a tribesman is hunting for food and caring for like how do you compare that with somebody who wastes his time on YouTube? Like right. Is the one better than the other?
Right, exactly. Yeah. No, it's totally loaded, totally arbitrary. There's no comparison.
Yeah. Well, I think we have almost gotten to the hour mark, so I am going to sort of wrap things up by saying thank you so much, Jackson and Nestle, for coming on the channel. And this video is another installment in my interview series, and the next person that's going to be coming on the channel is, like my two guests here, somebody I have a lot of respect for, and that's Dr. Dan is going to be the next person coming on. So
Nice.
look out for that. And then in the month of August, I'm going to be having the friendly atheist Hemant Mehta coming on for an interview as well. So
Nice.
if there's anything you guys want to say before we sort of sign off, feel free.
Well, I guess I'll end by saying RJ Downard and I have a book, because if I don't say that, he'll haunt me. So
Go buy it.
If you are into combating young Earth creationism and all that sort of nonsense, then check out our book.
Yep.
I don't have anything else to say. So just I will say I do that. I have a channel, but I don't do much on my channel. But if you are interested in some of the things I do, go check it out. But the main thing I do is help Jackson Wheat with his videos. So of course, go check his channel out if you want to see more about that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, be sure to visit Jackson's channel and subscribe, and also like this video. And that's going to do it for us. So thank you to everybody in the side chat, and I'll see you guys later.